Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. Promoter Eddie Hearn says Dereck Chisora is asking for too much, and that a fight between Chisora and Dillian Whyte, it may not happen after all. The Matchroom boxing boss, he's made the comments in an interview with IFL TV. He went on to say that the respective sides are further apart now than they had been, with Chisora initially having said what he wanted, but subsequently asking for even more. So Hearn said if they can't come to an agreement very shortly, that they'll just have to move on, and that they are talking to another prospective opponent. And Hearn, he even suggested that Whyte may not even fight on December 22nd if they can't get this deal done, that he could potentially fight on another card if need be, although he did think that the fight date for Whyte was likely to go ahead with or without Chisora. So very interesting stuff and entirely predictable. It's a very public warning shot to Chisora. Don't get too greedy, mate, because otherwise you're going to miss out on a pay-per-view payday. It will be one of the biggest paydays of Dereck Chisora's career. And Hearn has indicated that they need to move on to making an announcement in the next week or so. So effectively, he's trying to time box Chisora and his new manager, David Haye, into completing the negotiations, making a deal. Come to the party, guys, or you're going to miss out. And is it really surprising that Hearn is dropping these public breadcrumbs that Chisora is now asking for more? And it just so happens to coincide with David Haye's arrival on the scene. It's not really a coincidence. Very deliberate stuff. I actually laughed when I heard Hearn say all that. And that's part of the reason I think what's happening now is entirely predictable. I said when Chisora signed on with Haye that it might actually take a bit longer for this fight to get made, that extra voice around the table, that extra expertise in Chisora's corner. But I did think, and I still think, the likely end result is that the fight gets made, although it just might take longer. Haye is a very canny operator. He'll be trying to ensure the best deal for Dereck Chisora, and thus himself, because obviously he's taking a bit off the top. So it doesn't surprise me in the least to hear that Dereck Chisora has now upped his demands and asked for more. And it wouldn't actually surprise me to ultimately hear that Chisora ends up getting more than he originally asked for. We'll have to see on that score though. But it's going to be a fine line, because if they push too hard, they ask for too much, well actually Hearn could call the bluff and Chisora could be out on his ear, no big payday. And in that scenario, Haye might get the chop, because obviously Dereck Chisora wants this fight. He says he's the money man and that he is going to have this fight, this rematch with Dillian Whyte, get his revenge. So just as Haye's very public insertion into this negotiation got people talking about Chisora again, a Chisora and Whyte fight, and less so about Luis Ortiz and Dillian Whyte, Eddie Hearn is trying to counter with some of his own public pressure. It was a very effective PR tactic, bringing David Haye in, going very public, getting people talking about Del Boy again, or War Chisora as he's now known. And the way that Eddie Hearn is talking now, with his public statements, he's essentially indicating any deal is far from done, and negotiations are effectively headed for the scrap heap at this rate. So there does need to be some movement soon, surely though, because it's only 2 months out from fight night. Yes, it's only 2 months out from December the 22nd, so that's going to roll around really quickly. They can't really afford to drag this out for too much longer, because there's all the sort of fight-associated logistics and other bits and pieces, the selling of the tickets, all the other bits and pieces they need to do, the mechanics to make this fight work. So I'll be very interested to see where this all goes in the next couple of days, and who ends up calling whose bluff, and whether Haye will be out in the media crying poor on Chisora's behalf. And I don't know how well that's going to work, because I think the interest in Luis Ortiz over Dereck Chisora, at least among boxing fans, hardcore boxing fans, and boxing fans more generally, I think that did weaken Chisora's position to some extent. And obviously there is Dominic Breazeale potentially waiting in the wings as well. So it's not like Chisora is, got just this whole thing cornered, although Eddie Hearn has said this is his clear preference for Dillian Whyte. And why is that? Well, it's going to make more money than those other couple of fights that I mentioned. But the thing I'm not going to do is get my expectations up about another opponent for Whyte. Not at this stage. I still think Chisora is the odds-on favourite to get the fight in December. But very interesting, Eddie Hearn trying to pressure Dereck Chisora, Come back to the table, be more reasonable. Otherwise, you're out. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out. If you want even more boxing content, come and join me on Patreon. Every week on a Sunday, I drop a new video on something topical or thought-provoking from the heavyweight division, ranging from rankings, the business of boxing, the false economy of deluded fanboys, the twists and turns in the division, to assessments of fighters and their statements. I hope to see you there, and for more information go to patreon.com/boxing squared. The address is on screen now.